It's only one day off. Rama Vijayotsava. Finishing Ravana. I've learned that young boys like battle stories. Do you two boys like battle stories? Yeah. You know this one? No. Oh, it's a good one. So many things to say about the story of Ramayana. It has so many things nice to say about Ramayana. One of the favorite things that Prabhupada would say many times is the lesson of trying to enjoy Sita without Ram. Big mistake. Trying to enjoy fortune without acknowledging the source of that fortune. There's worldly fortune and there's spiritual fortune, and trying to be the enjoyer is material. And it brings lots of problems. So Ravana met many problems. In the course of this narration, in the course of this narration, he's going to meet his end. By the time Hanuman reaches Lanka and deals with Lankini, and she hits him, and he hits her back. Not too hard. Enough to knock her over, but not to harm her. And she then pleads for mercy, and she says, Lord Brahma told her the day will come when a monkey comes and hits her, and when that'll be the signal that the whole of the Rakshasa dynasty is finished. Of course, there's other signals as well. So many times. So many times. Ravana was advised to return Sita, and everything would be all right. Don't sit so far away. Come forward. Those of you that are in the front, you little guys, you're a little guy. Come forward. All three of you. This young girl also, come forward. Because there's some old folks back there and they want to sit with the rest of us. Come on. You like sitting out there in the balcony? No, come forward. You got to do better than that. Come on. Okay. Excuse me. You're a gentleman and I'm being something other tonight. It's the Rama Vijayotsava mood. But he was so obstinate. And so many other things besides obstinate. Big, foolish person. When the whole army came, after Hanuman came and went and burned Lanka, and etc., and then Ravana insulted Vibhishan. There's this little section because he knew Ravana knew that Vibhishan was a good man. Not only a good man, he was a Vaishnava. But although there was this family affection, when Ravana was killed, somebody's phone? Huh? Oh. It's going to be very hard for me to concentrate with jet lag because jet lag is hitting right now. You try to concentrate when jet lag is hitting? Yes? You've had the experience? It's tough, isn't it? You have sympathy for me, right? Jet lag is hitting. What to speak of distractions? Even his brother, Kumbhakarna, advised him to return Sita. But because you're my brother, I'll stick up for you. I'll fight. Because when the whole army came and there was this, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Because it was inviolable. How did they cross the ocean? Build a bridge that rocks floated, right? What's this? So the battle's about to begin, and one of the first scenes in the battle was Kumbhakarna. I just saved some of the pictures. This is Kumbhakarna asleep. There's some really nice pictures of, in order to wake him up, he had a very special sleeping place. They got drums and horns and were blaring the drums and the horns, and they were poking him with tridents and having elephants trample on him and horses trample on him, and he was a deep sleeper, this guy. A huge body. And as soon as he woke up, they had a big meal for him. They had his big meal. And after he had his big meal, he came before Ravana, to the court of Ravana. Ravana gave his instructions, Kumbhakarna, go get him. And off he goes to battle. And he was so huge when he just walked, he would trample many persons at a time. Humongous body. And he was still hungry, so he's just eating people. And amongst the Vanaras, those that were bravest, Sugriva was one of the bravest, and he did battle with Kumbhakarna. And you bite Kumbhakarna like this, that's going to make him very angry. And so there's some Vanaras with sticks and stones and whatever they could get together. And Ram faced off, and with his bow and arrows, he chopped off his head and crushed, and when his head fell, it crushed part of the city. And everyone was very happy except Vibhishan because he's one of his brothers. Although, it's a bodily identification, it's very strong. Although he knew very clearly, because he was a Vaishnava, that Ramchandra was the personality of Godhead, and Ravana has stolen Sita, and he knew everything. Still family affection, bodily attachment, identification, very strong. Very strong. It's another nice painting. Boy, I like the fact that many of these paintings, as you can see from the script, it's Arabic. So although they were occupying and ruling, governing in India for a long time, they loved Ramayana. It's so charming. And they have a really nice way of depicting demons, don't they? So there goes his head rolling on the ground. And in addition to Kumbhakarna, there were the two sons of Kumbhakarna, Kumbha and Nikumbha. Sugriva killed them. And when they were killed, and mentioning a long list of others, there's a description in Valmiki Ramayana that for at least a short moment, Ravana was regretting. He lapsed into a mood of, from the time that I insulted my brother Vibhishan, and he left, so many miseries have come to me. Not like that's going to stop him from doing what he does. Now, in addition, one of his chief weapons was Indrajit, Ravana. He had many weapons, and Kumbhakarna was huge. But Indrajit was tricky and also powerful. The name, that wasn't his given name, he was given the name later Indrajit because he conquered Indra. He's very powerful. And he had magic tricks too. One of his magic tricks was he produced an illusory Sita, brought the illusory Sita before Ravana, and right in the presence of Ravana, right in the presence of Hanuman, he slayed Sita. As you see in the painting, he chopped off her head. And that's Hanuman on the right side, looking at the scene, and he's very unhappy. But he was rescued by Vibhishan, who explained this is just one of Indrajit's magic tricks. So Ramachandra began dispatching his army, starting with Lakshmana and Vibhishan, to fight against Indrajit's army. There on your left, you see Ram's having a little huddle. He's invited the Vanaras to make their battle plan. And on the right side, they're starting to attack Lanka. Look closely in the lower right side, and you'll see Indrajit doing a yagya, where he's sacrificing a black goat to Agni, the fire god. And the purpose of this particular yagya was to make himself invincible. Make himself invisible first, and then invincible. So battles are going on, and Indrajit's doing his yagya. And Vibhishan brought Lakshman to the very place where Indrajit was doing this yagya, to sacrifice a black goat so he could become invincible and invisible. And the first business was to destroy the yagya, and then the next was having a big battle with Indrajit. Hanuman was the first one having the big battle with Indrajit. Looks like Hanuman's going to win. Look at this, he's got a giant boulder and smashing Indrajit. However, in the painting again, in the unattended, in the upper right, you see there's a fire yagya area. This is the British people. The British and the Muslim rulers, they like Ramayana. So there's the fire yagya that was left unattended, big battle in one of the groves, in Lanka, the Kumbhila Grove. Over on the left side, Ramchandra's getting an update on what's going on the battlefield. And then this painting is showing Lakshmana slays Indrajit. Again, in the upper right, there's the black goat before the sacrificial fire. And in the center, there's Ram and Lakshman fighting against Indrajit. And the top left, Ram is very calm while the battle's going on. And at the end of this battle scene, there's, it's nice, bloody and gory and very exciting, charming battle scene. There's Lakshmana severing the head of Indrajit. There, see that orange head over there on the left? That's Indrajit's head. And that body up on the top left, that's the rest of his body. And there's Indrajit on the right side. By Lakshman on the right side, severing the head of Indrajit. And after Indrajit was slain by Ravana, he wanted to blame Sita. She's the one that's to blame for all of this. Pretty stupid man. So he went to try to take revenge against Sita, and you see in the lower right, that's one of his men. So Parshva convinces Ravana, the problem isn't with Sita, the problem is go after Ram. You're a hero, you're powerful, who can defeat you? Go team, go. So, Ravana likes that idea. He's the most powerful, who can defeat him? And so he goes out to battle on the battlefield. And over on the right side, there you see Ram riding on the back of Hanuman. And down in the center, you see a couple, a Vanara and a Rakshasa having at it. And there's the main battle. It's Ravana and Lord Ramachandra riding on the back of Hanuman. And Ram got the best of it. He pierced Ravana's chest with a powerful arrow, and Ravana retreated. Ravana called his ministers, what's going on? This is where he made this long speech about, ever since I humiliated Vibhishan and he left, bad things and bad things. He lists so many bad things that have happened. He has some sense of karma. Not too much, though. So the next day, big battle. As you see on the right side, there's again Lakshman riding on the shoulders of Hanuman, and riding in a chariot is Ram. And over on the left, there's Ravana, so many arms, so many heads, and a big battle with not just them, but they're at the center of the whole picture. And many nice paintings, arrows, Ram's arrows, Ravana's arrows. There's Ram and Lakshman both firing arrows. Ravana's getting pierced. They're also getting some harm that comes from him. But I want to read, it's very nice, because it's Rama Vijayotsava. We're here. His finishing Ravana. When the battle began, Indra saw the battle was beginning. He was really encouraged. After all, he was defeated by Indrajit. And so he requested his chariot driver, Malati, and his many mystical horses to descend on earth. There they were, engaging along with Ramachandra in battling Ravana. Back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Battle, 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 battle. Even after fighting for half a day, neither seemed to have the upper hand. Ravana composed himself and once again invoked the Rakshasa Astra, imbuing it with all his mystic potency. Immediately the air was filled with a thick shower of every kind of weapon. The entire globe seemed to shake, and the ocean became agitated. Serpents and devils appeared, screaming in the sky and emitting fire from their mouths. The sun lost its brilliance, and the wind ceased to blow. In the heavens, the gods themselves became fearful and cried out, "May all be well within the worlds." With full concentration, Ram again invoked the Gandharva Astra, which caused hundreds of thousands of arrows to appear at once and counter Ravana's weapons. Those awful and demoniac missiles fell to the ground and burned up, being pierced by Ram's firing shafts. The battle between Ram and Ravana could only be compared to itself. Such a fight had never been seen at any time, even by the gods. They watched anxiously as Ram came under repeated ferocious attacks from the Lord of the Rakshasas. Ram remained calm. He took from his bow a great razor-headed arrow that resembled a venomous serpent. In an instant he fitted it and fired the arrow at Ravana. That arrow, imbued with mystic power, divided into 10 and tore off the demons' heads. But they immediately grew again. Ram sent another weapon, which again severed the Rakshasas' heads, and again they grew back. Ram struck down 100 heads, but the demon remained standing. Without slowing his attack for even a moment, Ram contemplated this wonderful phenomenon. How was this demon to be killed? No weapon seemed to be able to take his life. It looked like the fight might go on forever. Vibhishan to the rescue. Vibhishan quickly approached Ram. He told him that the demon had a boon from Brahma, that his heads and arms could never be destroyed. In Ravana's heart was a store of celestial nectar, which renewed the life in his body. The only way to kill him was to strike at his heart with a divine weapon that could dry up the nectar. Drum roll. Ram considered his next move, all the while raining arrows upon Ravana. Matali turned to Ram and spoke, "O Ram, the time for this one's death has come. Recall now the prayer Agastya told you. Agastya also gave you an arrow when you were in the forest. It was Agastya that told them to stay for 1 year at Panchavati and gave him certain weapons, etc., etc. So Matali seems to know about this too. Imbue that arrow with the force of the Brahmastra and kill the demon by piercing his heart. As if Ram didn't know what to do. Accepting Matali's advice, Ram remembered the celestial arrow which Agastya had given him long ago in the forest. At once it appeared in his hand, and he fitted it to his bow. Its shaft was made of ether, and its weight consisted of the Mandra and Meru mountains. The wind god presided over its shaft, the fire god over its plumes, and the sun god was installed at its point. It looked like the rod of universal destruction, wielded by the time spirit himself. Ram again chanted the Aditya Hridaya prayer. That's the special prayer that was given to him by Agastya. And then invoked the infallible Brahmastra. Paragraph. Exciting, right? As Ram drew back the arrow, he shone so brilliantly no one could look at him. He released the weapon and it flew at Ravana, lighting up the earth and sky and roaring like a tumultuous ocean. It struck the demon on his chest, even as he stood firing his own weapons at Ram, piercing right through his heart. The arrow emerged from Ravana's body, soaked in blood, and entered the earth. Ravana whirled around and let out a cry which seemed to shake the entire creation. His bow dropped from his hands, and he fell from his chariot like a mountain struck down by Indra's thunderbolt. The Rakshasas fled, panic-stricken in every direction. They shed tears of grief on seeing their lord slain. The monkeys leaped about, chasing the fleeing Rakshasas and shouting with joy. The sound of drums and other celestial instruments sounded from the sky. Delightful breezes blew on the battlefield, carrying heavenly odors. The dazzling shower of brilliant flowers fell from the sky and covered Ram's chariot. The gods and rishis praised Ram, who stood blazing with splendor. The battle was over. Almost. Ram climbed down from the chariot and was surrounded by Lakshman, Sugriva, Hanuman, Angada, Jambavan, and Vibhishan, all who praised and cheered him for his incredible feat. Now there's a little bit more, because there's different versions of Ramayana besides this one. Could use for the garland bookmarker. So here's some paintings. This is the two, Lakshman and Hanuman, ready with their bow. According to the one version, Valmiki Ramayana, the entire battle lasted 7 days and 7 nights without stopping. And there's other versions of Ramayana that say the entire battle lasted for 60 to 70 days. I don't know which version that is. It looks like Ravana on his Pushpaka Vimana. Vibhishan. In Ravana's heart is a store of celestial nectar which renews the life of his body, we read. Now, Tulsi's Ramayana, or Ramcharitmanas, says differently. It says that the celestial nectar was placed in the navel of Ravana. This is this reference that there's Vibhishan, who suggested spend your last year in exile at Panchavati. And while he was giving this instruction, he gave to them, or to Ram, the bow of Vishnu. We know about the bow of Vishnu, right? Especially because we were just with Parshuram in Parshuram Kshetra in South India. But he somehow got the bow of Vishnu. And then gave it to Ram. So here's Agastya gave the bow of Vishnu to Ram, and 2 inexhaustible quivers from Indra, 1 infallible area, and a gold inlaid sword from Lord Rama. So he's got weapons before going to Panchavati. So here's some other text that's nice. So I'll just read. Matali turned to Ram. They read this. Recall the prayer Agastya told you. Agastya also gave you an arrow when you were in the forest. I read this. Okay. I read this. And through his heart. Yeah. So here's Uttarakhanda. This is Valmiki Ramayana. That arrow, which was inviolable, and a thunderbolt hurled by the arms of Indra, and irresistible as Yama, the Lord of Death, fell upon Ravana's chest. That arrow, released with great speed, and which was capable of destroying the body, tore off the heart of that evil-minded Ravana. So the reason for going through this is the different version that's in Ramcharitmanas, where it's in his navel. After Lord Sri Krishna's arrow cut off Ravana's head and arms, they were renewed again with head and arms. Should be heads, not just head. This news was given to Mother Sita by Trijata. Who's Trijata? She's in the Rakshasi group, but she's favorable. Huh? You're answering. You want to say what it is? She is? Trijata. Huh? Say it again. The daughter of Vibhishana. Trijata? The daughter of Vibhishana? Not that I know of. She's a favorable Rakshasi. She's the one that had a dream and told Sita, I had a dream. Ravana was coming in white horses and he's come to rescue you. This is an omen. Soon he will come. Don't lose heart, because Ravana was tormenting her, Trijata. She's kind of like a mystical, favorable Rakshasi. That's my memory. Anyone knows differently? Okay. So Trijata speaking to Sita, explaining to Sita that Ram cut off the head, or heads, and arms of Ravana. Mother Sita felt much disappointed hearing that Lord Ram's arrows weren't able to finish Ravana. She started lamenting, considering the situation. To console Mother Sita, Trijata spoke as follows. Listen, O princess, the enemy of gods will surely die if an arrow pierces his breast, but your Lord is careful not to strike him there. For he, that's Ramachandra, knows that Videha's daughter, that means Sita, abides in his heart. He was prevented by the thought that Janaka's daughter dwells in Ravana's heart, and that Janaki's heart is his own abode. His means Ramachandra. In his belly are contained the numberless spheres, which all will perish the moment his arrow pierces Ravana's heart. Now listen, fair lady, how your enemy will meet his death and shake off the great misgiving which still haunts your mind. Ravana will get disconcerted when his heads are cut off, with the result that you will escape his mind. That particular moment will the all-wise Sri Ram strike him in his heart. That's Ramcharitmanas. Vibhishan, this is another place, Vibhishan said to Ram, listen, all wise ruler of the animate and inanimate creation, help. Protector of the supplicant, delight of the gods and sages. In the depth of his navel, there is nectar by virtue of which my lord Ravana survives. Drawing the bow string right up to his ear, the lord of the Raghus let fly 31 shafts, which flew forth like the serpents of death. One arrow sucked up the depths of the navel, while the rest, no, it's 31, struck his 10 heads and 20 arms with impetuosity. While dying, he shouted with a loud and terrible roar, where is Ram, that I may challenge and slay him in battle? Nice thought, huh? And this is from another Ramayana, because there's so many Ramayanas. Doesn't say who the author is. In his heart always resides Sita, and within the heart of Sita is myself, Ram. And within me is the entire universe, along with the earth and its 7 islands. Thinking like this, Lord Ram, who always cares for the welfare of the 3 worlds, did not shoot arrows at the chest of Ravana, but instead shot it at Ravana's navel. May that, Lord Ram, bestow good fortune on all of us. The different versions of Ramayana. On the upper left, there's demigods showering flowers. There's Ram with his bow and a special-looking arrow with a crescent tip. And over on the right side is Ravana. He's going to get that arrow very soon. And here's a nice ISKCON BBT painting with Ravana being struck in the chest. That's an old one. And here's a newer one. As Ravana is flying in the sky and Ram is sending an arrow, he hits him in his chest with that arrow. Here's another very nice BBT. This is European BBT. Showing Ram on the left, Ravana on the right, getting shot in the chest with his arrow. BBT artwork is really fantastic. There's really, others don't compare. And Ravana was finished. And many of his followers wailed aloud. And poor Mandodari, there's some nice paintings I didn't show, but she touched his feet and before he went into battle, was too proud to listen, advising him this and that and the other. And she also advised, just give Sita back. You've got so many wives. I'm one and very faithful. And why are you doing like this? On the right side, in addition to Mandodari, there's so many other queens, some of whom were faithful to Ravana. And, of course, Rama Vijayotsava, the demigods were pouring down flowers, and the Vanaras were very happy. There's Lord Brahma and other devas celebrating, because Ravana was, the Lord Vishnu was requested by them all to appear on earth and deal with this wicked Ravana. I want to read a little bit more from the scene here. As he gazed upon his brother's dead body, Vibhishan then began to lament, "Alas, O Ravana, How have you been killed? After displaying your power for a long time, you now lie motionless with your brilliant diadem thrown off. The very fate which I predicted has come to pass. Why did you not heed my counsel? That was meant always for your good. Overcome by lust, greed, and anger, you have met the sure result of harboring these three mortal enemies of the soul, O my brother. Now that you have been slain, everything seems void. The sun has fallen to earth. The moon has merged in darkness. Fire does not emit flames, and all energy has become bereft of effort. All of Lanka is lost. Although shunned by Ravana, Vibhishan had loved his brother and had always desired his welfare. He fell by his side and continued to cry out. Ram approached him and placed an arm around him, consoling him with soft words. Your brother has died a hero's death. No hero has ever been known to be always victorious. Sooner or later, a warrior will die at the edge of weapons. This is the end sought by all great fighters, O Vibhishan. There's no need to mourn for Ravana, for his death was glorious. Lakshman also consoled the grief-stricken Vibhishan by telling him spiritual truths. Although Ravana's body had fallen, his soul remained alive. Indeed, having been purified by Ram's weapons and by his death in battle, he would surely have attained an exalted destination. There was no gain in lamenting over a corpse once the soul has departed. Vibhishan should now perform the last rites for his brother and then assume the rulership of Lanka. Now, as you probably remember, they had a pre-installation even before crossing to Lanka. But now there's going to be a more formal one for the public view when Vibhishan becomes the next king, indicating that Ram wasn't interested in battle in order to gain more territory, more kingdom. Many kings would do like that. Conquer and conquer and conquer and expand their kingdom. Ram didn't have such an interest. He was very happy to see Vibhishan become the king. Vibhishan became the king. Vibhishan was actually, he's an interesting personality. He was so dear to Lord Ramachandra. Ramachandra held him dear to him, that Vibhishan went all the way with Ramachandra back to Ayodhya, saw Ram's coronation, etc., etc. And upon his return, Ramachandra gave him a gift. What was the gift? He gave him the deity of Ranganath. Ranganath's a big deity. How do you carry a big deity like that when you're a traveling Sankirtan? As fate would have it, Ranganath had a different idea. They were headed in a southerly direction, but they stopped at a very sacred place where he didn't want to leave. He said, but I'll look in your direction, because deities, it's one of the Vastu rules. You don't have deities facing south, but he's facing south. So he can look upon the kingdom of Vibhishan and protect him just by his glance. This deity is very celebrated deity. Worshipped in the Ikshvaku dynasty from such a long, long, long time. They just gifted him to Vibhishan. huge deity. Ram's victory over Ravana means different things to different people. You know, the battle of good against evil and so many other things. You know, one level, from our understanding, our Gaudiya understanding, is he, Ravan, and Kumbhakarna, both brothers, they were gatekeepers of the Lord of Vaikuntha, who accepted that service as a service. I mean, it wasn't a nice position to be in as a servant, but that was the position where they were in opposition to Vishnu, and then Vishnu had a suitable combatant, both Kumbhakarna and Ravana. Jai Vijay. Trying to remember, jet lag isn't helping. Trying to remember when we were visiting South India, there's a detail given by Jiva Goswami in Bhagavad Sandarbha that says the gatekeepers of Vaikuntha are in the four north, south, east, west directions and the subdirections, in 8 directions. And Jai and Vijay are guarding the west side. And guarding the northeast side is a particular personality whose name I can't remember. And that personality, the gatekeeper of the Lord of Vaikuntha, was asked by the Lord of Vaikuntha, please go and assist Lord Brahma. So, although he was attached to Lord Vishnu, he went to Swargaloka where he assisted Lord Brahma. The narration goes like this. When serving Lord Brahma in Brahmaloka one time, there was a concert where the goddess Saraswati was playing the veena and probably singing. So this gatekeeper of Vaikuntha, whose name I can't remember, starts with an S, he was enjoying the concert, but his mind was on Lord Vishnu. And Brahma detected it. You're not paying attention properly. So he cursed him. And it says in the commentary that his cursing him was with an action of the internal potency of the Lord, so he could take birth in lower planetary regions and assist the Lord in his pastimes, which he did. In other words, and there's more to the narration, but there's different gatekeepers in Vaikuntha, and persons even in Vaikuntha, besides Jai and Vijay, we often hear is exceptional, but here's one of those exceptions also. That in service to the personality of Godhead, someone who's serving a gatekeeper, attending to protecting the Supreme Lord, nice service, was cursed to come to earth and engaged in what appeared to be similarly contradictory activities, but then rescued by the Lord for his pastimes. Now I'm trying to recall, since somebody in the room recall, because my memory function isn't working well right now. Because Jai and Vijay had to take birth 3 times as demons, Only when killed by Krishna did they return to their post in Vaikuntha. Which means that Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha and Ravana and Kumbhakarna went someplace else for some period of time until they took their necks. So where was the place where they went? Does anybody recall reading this? I'll see if I can find it when I'm more alert tomorrow. My, 3% functioning memory says Mahakalapur, there's different Mahakalapurs, but one of them is a place that's part of Shivaloka, but it's not the region of light. There's a region of light and there's a region of darkness. And they went to that place where they stayed for some time and then took their birth again in the material body and the next and the next. Just kind of like a holding place for the next time you had to appear and perform activities. Mahakalapur. I'll see if I can find it and let you know when I find it. My apology for this, but when jet lag hits, there's really not much you can do besides close your eyes and go to sleep. That would be so good right now. Let's see if there's some discussion. Rama Vijayotsava. It's on. It's on.
She attained the liberation or I don't know.
I don't know either. Be careful. She attained something. No. No. Neither. By following Dharma, does one get liberation? You get elevation, but not liberation. Is that correct or not? Huh? Whatever I say is okay. But just use your common sense. Besides whatever I say, you'll accept. What's the purpose of Dharma? What's the consequence? What's the fruit of proper dharma? It's elevation, material elevation. One gains dharma points, or piety, by following proper dharma, and those dharma points carry you to a higher destination. It's elevation. But what's liberation? Is that just higher destination? Period. It's yes. What is it? Yeah, what? I'm testing you. You asked a question, now I'm asking you. So is that what dharma is, or is dharma something else? You're not sure. Not sure. Okay, you read Bhagavad Gita, right? You try. Sometimes. I think you better read Bhagavad Gita carefully. Because, I don't mean to make you uncomfortable or something. I want people to ask questions. But I'm helping you to understand carefully, because careful understanding takes away confusion. So the question, let's go back to Mandodari. What was the destination of Mandodari? And you're comparing her destination similar to that of Gandhari, but she was following Dharma. So elevation, even the person she was following wasn't a good guy. He wasn't a dharmic guy. He was elevated, but he wasn't. He was doing skullduggery. Or knowing that his son was doing skullduggery, looking the other way, because he was the king. He should have put a stop to it, but he didn't. So he was part of the skullduggery. He knew, and he didn't put a stop to it. Now, if you're blind, how are you going to put a stop to having a son like Duryodhana? He had the power, but he looked the other way, knowingly. And he had a motive. He wanted his son to become the king. At what cost? What was the cost? Skullduggery, cheating, murder. So she's faithful to such a person, Gandhari. So in one sense, she was fulfilling her dharmic duty, but it's not. She got liberation. And Mandodari, similarly. Especially when looking at the situation through the lens of Srimad Bhagavatam. Here's a little education. My brain is working a little bit better at the moment, so I'll say it. In the second canto, chapter 10, Srimad Bhagavatam, it gives the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam in a list. And one of the items in the list is moksha, or liberation. And the Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 10, gives the following. Prabhupada referred to it again and again. Muktir, instead of saying moksha, it's mukti. Muktir hitvanyata rupam swarupena vyavastati. Vyavastati, being situated in one's swarup. Swarupena vyavastati. Muktir hitvanyata rupam swarupam vyavastati. Mukti, or liberation, means being situated in one's spiritual form and engaging in service to the Supreme. That's liberation. So neither Mandodari nor Gandhari were in the spirit and disposition of serving the interest of the Supreme. They're living dharmically, at least some part of what they're doing. So the part that's alike is that their faithfulness as a wife to somebody that wasn't such a good fellow. There's some similarity between the two ladies. Yes.
In the case of Mandodari, could one say that her practicing dharma becomes fellow dharma because she offers service and trying to be good advice to them? Because if he's such a really big guy, and you need to speak up in front of him, he says, well,
Well, what's the motivation? What was Mandodari's motivation? Let's say it differently. Does devotional service depend upon intention? Is some part of devotional service the intention to please the Supreme Lord? Her intention was not to please Supreme Lord. Her intention was that her husband should not be killed because he's done bad, and she knows, and he's going to get the consequence of his bad. So don't go to battle, do good. Give seed to back. Make things nice. Say you're sorry. Her motivation was, in the big picture of things, they're all doing devotional service to please the personality of Godhead because they're assisting him in his pastimes. Even the, bad people. Yes. Yes, they're very special. Well, whatever his motivation is, that's what his motivation is. But surrendering, regardless of motivation, if it's not just cosmetic, but surrendering. It's okay. Yeah. Yeah. Just like that. Poof. It's in Sri Vaishnavism, particularly, I forget which one of the two, in one of the two divisions of Sri Vaishnavism, that little passage is a big deal. Big deal meaning, the division between these two, northern and southern, have to do with, and there's multiple, there's something like 8 different major schisms, but one of them is it's a one-time deal, and the other is it's an ongoing submission process. Because one says, he says what he says, that's it, don't interpret it. And the other says, when you says surrender unto me even once, it's not like then you take it back. That's not what surrender is. It's an ongoing process. Etc. And there's subtleties and things. So your question specifically is, even if, and the answer is yes.
understanding that the purification that comes from that surrender purifies, rectifies
Yes.
the pain.
Ooh. Well, it rectifies the previous mistakes, the consequences of previous mistakes. But now you just touched on this word tendency. Well, that's where the northern and southern schools differ. Because tendency means ongoing. So there's different schools of thought. You know, amongst Sri Vaishnavas and amongst Gaudiya Vaishnavas, it seems to me that's very clear. It's not a one-time deal. It's an ongoing process. Submission is an ongoing process. One can submit and then slacken. And we see it. Now, what benefit goes to that person who submits and then slackens is eternal. It's just covered. So it's preserved, but it's not, there is an ongoing process of submission and surrender. That's a Gaudiya perspective. You like philosophy? So. Like kirtan. Okay. Yes.
How do we decipher or try to understand the favorable definition of Rama and Krishna?
Well, favorable in the sense that he was, by being killed by Ramachandra, he was released from the reactions of his misdeeds. He wasn't released from the tendency, which is what her point was, but so his slate was made clean, but tendency was still there. It came out next birth. Does that cover the question you're looking for?
My question is, at the end, was Robin really scared at the end and tried to surrender?
Tried to?
Tried to surrender to you? No.
Proud, right to the end. Arrogant, blusteringly arrogant. He was powerful. And he knew it. Now, from where did he derive that power, and how was he properly or improperly using that power? We know the answer to those questions. But he didn't, the light didn't go on saying, he's the one I should be surrendering to. You're not going to surrender to anybody. Yes, one more. Someone? No. Hey.
I just have one quick question.
Okay.
Why did Rama specifically give the Ranganath presentation?
Why not? Because he was dear to him. And as a gesture of something that's dear to you, you may give that something that's very dear to you to one who is dear to you. He gave it, why? Because of his love for Vibhishan. There was a demonstration of his love for Vibhishan. It's not like an heirloom, an heirloom meaning something that has monetary value, and you kind of covered it because this passed on from generations. My grandfather had this special something, necklace or valuable ornament or something. And so that's an heirloom, and I may gift an heirloom to somebody as a gesture of my affection for them. That was the purpose, but it wasn't just like an heirloom. This is the Lord that he worshipped. But
So specifically like the previous young and not like the born
what's the difference between a Gornatide deity or something? If one is attached, then that's a big deal. And, you know, he is the personality of Godhead, so who is he attached to? But, you know, in Leela, from many generations, this deity was being worshipped. Did you remember from our visit to South India, there was another deity that was being worshipped by the Ikshvaku dynasty? Remember the Mula Ram deity? Remember that description? I'll remind you. Then you go, oh yeah. Vedanta Deshika. Remember hearing his name? Me too. Vedanta Deshika was born in an aristocratic family in the kingdom that surrounded, you know, now like Orissa. And he left that situation to eventually, without details, with eventually ending up as a disciple of Madhvacharya. And he stayed, Madhvacharya gave him sannyas, and he trained him, and he became in charge of one of the temples of Madhvacharya, and then he gave him an assignment. There's a deity of Mula Ram, Mula Ramachandra, Mula means root, very ancient deity of Ram, Sita, and Lakshman. And I would like you there in the Gajapati king's care, so see if you can get them, bring them here to Udupi. So it's on the other side of India. So he went, and he was living in a cave, and the current king deceased before his young son was to become the next king. So the system was, at that time, they had an elephant procession, and an elephant carried a garland, and whoever the elephant gave the garland to, he would become the incumbent king until the young man that became old enough to rule the kingdom. Remember this? Some bells are ringing. So he came to the cave where Vedanta Deshika was residing. And Vedanta Deshika heard all this clamor, so he went out to see what's going on, and the elephant placed the garland around him. Much to everybody's amazement, the ministers and everybody, and then he became king for a while. Until the young man became old enough to rule the kingdom. So when he did such a fantastic job, including, you know, protecting the kingdom from invading soldiers and many other very surprising qualities, because he is a sadhu. And when there's a battle, sadhus don't have a sword in their hand generally. But he was a very capable king in many ways. And so when the son became old enough, the son said, I'm ready to take over the kingdom. I'd like to give you a gift. Is there a gift that you would like to receive from our kingdom? And he said, yes. There's a deity of Lord Ramachandra that's been worshipped for generations and generations and generations, not only in your kingdom, but the history of that deity goes back like many, like 16 different hands that deity passed through. Let's see if I can remember. Lord Brahma had the deity, there's self-manifesting deities. self-manifesting deities of Lord Ramachandra, Sita, and Lakshman. And Brahma personally worshipped them. After some time, he gave them to a sage to bring to the earthly realm from Brahmaloka. They went to the earthly realm, and I forget, many different people worshipped them. A sage worshipped them, I forget. Eventually, they went to a sage who had some residence in the sun planet. The sun planet gifted them to Ikshvaku. Ikshvaku brought them to the earthly realm again in Ayodhya. They're worshipped for the number of kings as descendants of the Ayodhya king. And the deities then were also of Sita, Ram, Lakshman. I said that Dasarath named his son after the deity. And Ramachandra, Dasarath worshipped them because they had been previously worshipped by that line from Ikshvaku. Then there was one Brahmana in Ramachandra's kingdom that was so attached to Lord Ramachandra and followed the vow that until he saw Lord Ramachandra that particular day, he wouldn't eat. He would fast. And sometimes Ramachandra had to go out of town and do some service. And so the Brahmana would fast until he came back. When Lord Ramachandra found out that was the case, he invited, this is giving a gift of something that's very valuable to you. He gifted to that Brahmana this deity of Ram, Sita, and Lakshman. And the Brahmana worshipped for the rest of his life. So he said, when you see this deity, you see me, so you don't have to go anywhere. You have to fast till I come back. So he followed that instruction. He worshipped the deity till he left. And then when he left, before he left, he gave the deity to Hanuman to worship. Oh, he was happy. The Mula Ram deity, he worshipped for 4 yuga cycles. That's a long time. And Hanuman gave the deity to Bhima, the circumstance. You know the Ramayana stories a little bit? Yeah, a little bit, okay. You know the story when when Bhima was searching for a particular flower, something Ganda. What? Okay, thank you. He was looking for one of those. Huh? Ganda something. Nice smelling flower. There was a particular place up on a mountain to get that particular flower. So Bhima is going to get this particular flower, and there was a monkey in the path. And he said, could you please move? I have to go get this flower for Draupadi. He said, you can move my tail. So Bhima tried to lift his tail. He couldn't move his tail. You know who that was? Hanuman, right? You know that passage from Ramayana? Mahabharata? You think so. You've heard it before. So, and in that encounter between Hanuman, who has been worshipping this Mula Ram deity for 4 yuga cycles, he understood they had the same father. Vayu was the same father, right? So he gave Hanuman gave something very dear to him, his deity of Mula Ram. And Bhima then worshipped, and then the line of kings following the Pandavas worshipped and worshipped and worshipped and worshipped. And then and then that line of kings from the Pandu dynasty or Yadu dynasty gifted them to the kings in the they're called Gajapati kings in Orissa. So the kings, put the things that were gifted to them into like a gift room, like their, what do you call it? Their treasury. So the Gajapati kings said, "You did such a nice job," that the young fellow that now was old enough to rule the kingdom, I just want those deities. So you can go look in our treasury. And he looked around, he couldn't find them. And Vedanta Deshika had a dream. Do you remember this? He had a dream. And the dream was that the deity... No, I'm getting mixed up. Yeah, the deity was given to him. I was mixing up another story. The deity was given to him. He brought the deity back and gave the deity to Madhvacharya, something like 3 months and some number of days before he left this world. So those deities of Mula Ram have a very interesting long history, but they're given from one to the next, because there was someone that was considered dear to them, and they wanted to give something that was dear to them to one who was dear to them. And gift giving is like that. It doesn't have to be like that, but it's sometimes like that. And even the something that's given may not be a deity, maybe something very modest in monetary value, but it's just a matter of exchange of loving dealings. That's what Vaishnavas do, right? Dadati pratigranati, you know that verse? Nectar of instruction. 6 types of loving exchange. You've heard of that one. There's 6. Dadati pratigranati. Dadati means you offer gifts and you receive gifts. Bhukte bhojayate jaipa. You know that one, that you offer prasadam and you receive prasadam. That's the nice one. His antenna went up. He got that one. And then you disclose your mind in confidence, and you hear others disclose their mind in confidence to you. Loving exchange amongst Vaishnavas. 6. So something that's dear to you, you give something that's dear to you. And even if it's not like necessarily dear to you, just a gesture. The gesture is what's significant, not the monetary value of the something. Now, one can only imagine how significant that gift was to give to Bibhishan, this huge deity of Ranganath. Or Mula Ram. But it's okay. It happens. Something, even the deity may be gifted to someone else. It doesn't say, I don't know of any explanation. Were there other deities remaining after this deity was given? It's probably. But we don't have that kind of narration that I'm aware of. That's a long answer to a short question. You have something. Okay.
Question from Rachel and Margaret. How do I get to do any type of event? Especially when one feels that one is more advanced than the previous.
Huh? When one thinks one is more advanced than one's seniors? That's not just entitlement, that's cuckoo land. Well, there are many things that can happen, but in principle, when that kind of dynamic is existing, Krishna is always very kind. And Krishna generally, when somebody is like that, Krishna is very kind and he chops them down. You think you're big? Here we go. So are there alternatives than other than being chopped down because of pride? So it sounds like the very nature of the question is you understand that here's a shortcoming within me. And when you see that there's a shortcoming within you, one option is Krishna's, put you in your place. Another option is you can do what you're doing. So associate with those that in your estimation have proper principles in their life, and they're consistent with living according to those principles that are in their life. And in other ways, they're also exemplifying the teachings that we find from Rupa Goswami. They're a good Rupanuga. And so find the association of those people. Here's two examples. There's one person I know that has, on the one hand, he has a very clear sense of piles and piles and piles and piles of shortcomings. And on the other side, he knows that he is a fault finder and a complainer, and and from different angles, continues to ask the same question: what do I do? Where do I go from here? And when he gets, somebody that needs to hear truth instead of a pat on the back, when it's people that hear truth when they need to hear truth instead of a pat on the back, generally, at least often, they don't like it. They'll either do something or say something that says they don't like it. They don't want to be corrected. They want to be in La La Land. And this particular person, he somehow takes it. He takes it when he gets corrected. It has to be done in the right way, but because he appreciates the person that can speak the truth, instead of getting a pat on the back, which the thing he wants is a pat on the back. Anyway, I don't know. It's hard to talk around the person's name and anything like that, but there's hope to make. How does one get over that? Is you have good association, and they can tell you, my dear Prabhu, my dear friend, the situation you're dealing with is a situation of pride, and please give up your pride and take the position of humble service instead. And but I'm not humble because I'm proud. Well, then not pretend it, but recognize, after all, you're not the controller. You're being controlled by your mind and your emotions and so forth, and you acknowledge it. So be humble. You're not, in fact, a controller. You're not the enjoyer. You're not Krishna. You're not the well-wishing friend of everyone. You're a fault finder. So finding some people who can set the right example, and as time and circumstance permits, to remind you what you just shared. I think I'm better than my superiors, which is, I guess, it's directly there's water in the desert. I'm greater than my superiors. It's just, and there's another one. Somebody that knows that fault finding is not a Vaishnava behavior, and they shared with me recently, I heard something about such and such Prabhu, it has stayed with me. And, although I know that fault finding is detrimental to bhakti. But I heard it, and it stayed with me. But now I see that person has become spiritually advanced, although I haven't become spiritually advanced because of my fault-finding tendency. And the person that was fault-finding has become a spiritually advanced person. So, beware of fault-finding. Beware of pride. Very detrimental for spiritual life. But get association with those that are free from that tendency, or have Krishna put you in your place, roughly. Not a difficult choice. But sometimes people choose it by default. Then you have a second one. Go ahead.
Question from Jonathan. Can I ask a question for Rama Vijayotsava?
I don't know.
I was hearing from an authorized source that Srimati Radharani offered a hair band to Yashoda that enabled her to eventually bind Krishna. Usually we hear that finally Damodar, seeing Yashoda's devotional effort, agreed to be bound, and she bound her. While Radharani's love is topmost, our understanding is that pure devotion of all rasas will bind Krishna. Can you please clarify this?
Well, whether the Leela took place or not, I can't say. But the principle is the right principle. How's that? Anyone else? One more. No, I don't want to hear another one like that one. Okay. The destination of what? Destination. You asked who? Shamakund. Just now. Oh, Madhvacharya says. That's a very different explanation. That's a very different explanation.
And then you also
Yes, yes, Shankukarna. Yes. Is he listening to this class? Okay. What time is it in India right now? 1 in the morning? Okay. Okay. My apologies for my jet lag and what to do. But I'm here. At least 30%. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.